Well, at its core, H.R. 8 creates the basis for a national gun registry. If this bill were to become law, and of course it still has to go to the Senate, it would become illegal with very few exceptions for you to even hand a firearm to somebody else unless they fill out a 4473 form and register the transaction with the government. So what that means is, every transfer of a gun, maybe your neighbor is worried about her violent ex, and so you want to gift her a gun for safety. Well, now you couldn't do that because virtually every transfer of a gun would become illegal if you don't jump through the proper hoops to register the transaction. And guess what? This bill will do absolutely nothing to stop bad guys from getting guns because they steal their guns or they get them on the black market. So like any other gun control law, this bill will only affect the law-abiding. What anti-gun Democrats did yesterday is not going to make anybody safer, but it does violate the Constitution, and it's opposed by a majority of the American public.
Now, Eric, this was a bipartisan effort. Why do you think that is?
Well, if you call bipartisan 8 Republicans breaking and 2 Democrats broke against it, it's hardly bipartisan. This is something that anti-gun Democrats are trying to ram through. And, it's really ironic because Nancy Pelosi and her cronies right now, they're hiding behind barbed wire. She has armed National Guardsmen surrounding them 24/7. She has Capitol Police on every corner. And yet she's making it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to get a firearm. I tell you what, this vote in the House, again, it would criminalize activity that has been legal since the founding of our nation. But if you don't jump through every hoop to submit to the registry that she's trying to set up for you and me, well, then now you're the criminal if your neighbor loans you a gun for a hunting trip. It's absolutely baffling. Pelosi is the one who encouraged rioting last year. You might remember she said, I don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be. Last year, rioters caused billions of dollars of damage in 2020. Dozens of people were murdered, including some cops. But now what's Pelosi's first priority? She wants to put decent moms and dads who don't submit to her registration scheme in jail. That's really evil and certainly unconstitutional.
So, Eric, we were actually just showing the remarks that House Democrats made before the passage of H.R. 8. And their argument is that this is actually going to protect Americans against people who have a criminal background or who suffer from mental illness. From your perspective, with the work that your organization does, is there any truth to this?
It's not going to stop bad guys from getting guns. Look, regarding the background checks, 95% of initial denials are false positives. That's according to the Department of Justice. That is a huge error rate. And that's only talking about the mistakes. Sometimes the denials are intentional. James O'Keefe of the Veritas Project, he's that undercover journalist. He was falsely put into the FBI's background check system. I wonder if that was political or not. Background checks were used to prevent Martin Luther King Jr. from getting a carry permit in 1956. Background checks can be abused by the party in power. We actually saw this under the Obama administration. Here's ultimately the problem. The right to protect oneself is a God-given right. I mean, that's what our Declaration of Independence says, that our rights come from the Creator. So we shouldn't be requiring people to jump through hoops and get government screening when it comes to exercising a God-given right. That's just simply immoral. A right delayed is a right denied, and there's always going to be negative consequences for doing that.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has actually indicated that he will take this to the Senate floor. What are your thoughts on this? Can we expect this to actually pass the Senate?
Not as it stands right now, no. Thank God. We have the filibuster in place, which means, for those who don't understand what the filibuster is, in the Senate, before any bill passes with a 51% majority, it has to first pass with with 60 votes out of 100. It's a way to slow things down. It's a way to force compromise. So as it stands right now they do not have the votes to pass this in the Senate. So we strongly encourage people to go to our website at gunowners.org, sign up for our free email alerts, because there in Florida, we're going to need to, we need Senators Rubio and Scott to be hearing from people to say, don't tamper with the filibuster and vote no on this legislation.
Now, Eric, your organization, Gun Owners of America, like you said, protects the Second Amendment right of Americans. Is there any reform that needs to happen other than the bill that we saw just pass? Is there any reform that needs to happen when it comes to gun control?
The gun-free zones that exist. One of the things that Democrats were trying to do in one of the other bills that they passed is to get rid of the so-called Charleston loophole, which allowed a South Carolina guy, the FBI didn't catch his drug arrest in time. But I tell you what, the real Charleston loophole was the fact that this killer was able to target a gun-free zone. He first wanted to shoot up a college, but he told friends there was too much security there. So you know what he did? He targeted a gun-free zone. He shot up a church where he knew his victims would be disarmed. That's what needs to be done. And that's one of the things that Gun Owners of America is pushing, is repealing these gun-free zones that don't make people safe. In fact, quite the opposite. Over 90% of the mass shootings in this country occur in gun-free zones. I mean, you just go through the list, whether it's Parkland, Las Vegas, Orlando, both Fort Hood shootings, the Aurora Theater shooting, the Navy Yard shooting, the San Bernardino shooting. I mean, you just go on and on and on down the list. They were all gun-free zones. That's what we need to deal with. We have over 2 million gun owners that we represent across the country, and we are dedicated to preserving our Second Amendment rights without compromise. And we've had quite good success at that, although obviously this year is going to be quite a challenge with both the House and Senate being run by anti-gun Democrats and an anti-gun Democrat in the White House. But people are rallying and putting a lot of pressure, so game on right now.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this perspective of your organization. Are there any final thoughts that you think is really important for the viewers to know?
Sure. Well, just to reiterate, there's going to be a huge battle in the U.S. Senate. And so I encourage people to go to our website at gunowners.org. If you're not already signed up for our free email alerts, please do so, because the more people that we're representing, the louder voice we're going to have in Washington, D.C.